Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is part 6 of our cooking game mechanics series. Let's get cooking. Today we are going to add our first appliance to our kitchen. We should be making a working toaster where we can add bread, it puts it in the slot, and we can lower the bread, and we can it will then pop up as toasted bread. So if this video goes on too long, I may split it into two, but they will both be uploaded simultaneously or within an hour or so of each other, just to help you guys instead of a big long video. If you prefer it just as a long video, please comment, let me know, and I will just put it up as long video in the future. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through a little bit of my thought process when making this toaster. First of all, we need to look at how realistic do we want our game to be. If we want it ultra realistic, then we would have to look at control settings and buttons and everything else on your toaster. For this game, I want it to be a little bit comedic, a little bit simple, a little bit fun. So but I still want it to be realistic enough to feel immersive. So what I'm doing is I'm making a halfway point. We're not going to worry about the buttons, pressing the buttons on the toaster and dialing up your temperature to make sure that your toast doesn't burn. If you want me to do that later on, let me know and I will show you how we can do that. But all we're going to do here is be able to drop the toast above the toaster. It puts it into the toaster. We can then click our left mouse button. The lever will go down. A toaster will follow it down and it will pop up. Okay, so it's as simple as that. But it still looks immersive. We're going to use quite a good toaster model. So let's get started with the importing of the meshes. Now the mesh I've used for this one, and I will bring up my FX game library, I've used this one here. It's a toaster by Stylu. It's free. You see I've got the free filter on. You can use whatever you like, but there is one thing we do need, and we need it to have separate meshes for the handle here. See on my mouse here. So the problem I have found is if we just go to Fab through our Unreal Engine, we go here and we go to Fab this way, we find it, we download it, it brings it in as a single mesh, which is no good to us. So unfortunately we have to have a little bit of jumping through hoops to get it correct for us. So you find it and you download it to your disk, okay? Or you save it to your disk. So you have to add it to your library, then you can save it to your disk through here. Once you've got that, you get it will say on disk here. We can then go to the three little dots. We can go to the files where it is. Okay. And then we have source and textures. Okay. Source here, and it's a GLB file. So through testing, we bring this in, it will bring in a multiple of files of FBX meshes that we can then work with more easily. So let's show you how I do it. Okay, so the first thing I normally do, let's go back to our project. I want you to go ahead to our meshes folder. We're going to make a new folder. We're going to call it appliances. No, we spelled that wrong. and we're just going to open that. This one brings it in with its name, so we're okay, but if not, we can always put it into a different file. So I'm going to open up my source, as I showed you how to get to it, and I'm going to drag the GLB file into Unreal. Now for testing on this one, it comes in quite big at 1. We need it to be 0.2 on the offset uniform scale. Okay. In fact, actually, I'm going to cancel this because I've missed a step. I do apologise. Oh, no. Oh, sorry, I'm talking. So make sure you've got it at 0.2 and import. All you have to do, you'll see it brings in a folder, Toaster. It brings in materials, textures, and static meshes. The important thing is, our static mesh is in 4 parts. Okay, so let's go ahead and save them all. They're in 4 parts, and 0.2 is the right size we need. We need to have this, which I'm not sure what language that is, but that's a handle. We can clearly see that if we open it up. Zoom in, there's your press down lever for your toaster. We need that to be separate from the rest of the meshes. So the easiest way to do it is to select the other 3 meshes by holding down your control key, select them. You drag them into the theme, position where you like, and we need to join them together. So we go to Actor, and all the way down here we've got Merge Actors. We go to Merge. We choose where we want to put it. We're going to put it in our meshes folder, our appliance folder, our toaster, our static meshes folder here. And it gives you this great long name. So we're going to name this as Toaster Complete. You don't need to put SM in front of it. This automatically does it for you. And then we're going to click Save. Now you see we have the SM Toaster Complete. So we save it all. Okay. You can go into your world now and you can choose this toaster here. Delete it and you'll see you've got some other little bits. You need to zoom in to get rid of. So we can delete them. Delete the feet. Okay. Now we can go ahead and we can just drag in as Toaster Complete here. Now you'll notice if I press End, we sit nicely. Our grab point's in the middle. I prefer for things like this, our grab point to be at the bottom, and sorry, our pivot point to be at the bottom. So let's go ahead and adjust that. Now in Unreal 5, we go to Selection, Modeling. We look down to X-Form or Transform and Edit Pivot. I like to click Center and then Bottom. Make sure your asset folder is in the current folder, as it just makes a copy of it. We don't want that, so make sure that's in current folder. And click and make sure your current folder is also your mesh folder. And click Accept. Now you see we have our toaster, and if we put it up to our bird, we can see it's fairly in scale with that bird. Let me zoom in. If I pick up the bird, we can see pretty well in scale with that bird, maybe a little bit big. Okay. In fact, if we go to the top view, it's probably easier. Let's go to Lit. We can see now that it's pretty good scale for that bread. Yeah. See that bread doesn't always fill up that toaster exactly. There's always a little bit of space. So I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so we can now go ahead and delete the toaster out of the world. We don't need it in there anymore. And that's our toaster done. Make sure everything is saved. We don't want to lose anything. So we're done. You could go ahead if you really wanted to and delete these 3 files. If you're worried about disk space, go ahead and do that. I tend to leave them there in case we want to change it later on. Okay, so that's that mess done. And the other thing I'd like you to do, we go back to our meshes folder, ingredients, we've got our bread, we've got our uncooked white bread. We're going to go ahead and we're going to import into the current folder our bread. Now I've put YouTube assets here. Now this folder I have zipped and put up on my Google Drive, and the link will be in the videos below. I think it was also in one of the videos before. Go to our meshes, go to our bread, and you see we've got toasted bread. Okay. So I want you to import the toasted bread and the toasted bread PNG and click open. This is one is fine, and import. Okay. Now the material that they give here, as I said before, doesn't really work for us. So we're going to delete that. We're going to, where we've got mbread there, we're going to duplicate that, and we're going to just name it mbread toasted. We're going to open it up. It's a very simple one. We're going to click on our texture sample here, and we're going to choose the toasted one. Just like that. And we're going to apply it, save it, and go ahead and close that. Back in our content drawer, we're going to open up our toasted bread. You see it's got no material on it. We're going to select our mbread toasted, and we're going to select that. We now have our toasted bread. Okay, you can see the difference. Go ahead and save that. And that's our static meshes that we need for this all done. I want to check if you notice that on this static mesh, I've got our pivot point here, which is what we've set up before. And this one should have the same pivot point. It should do, because I exported it from my world. So same size, same piece of bread. We'll have a look. This one's toasted, one's not. Unfortunately, because I made these through UI, they won't be. You can't just change the materials on the same mesh. It doesn't work. At least I don't think so. I think it looks awful. You can try that. Yeah. So if I open this up and just try put in, sorry, wrong one. If I open up the white bread uncooked and just change the material to the toasted, you can see all the UVs are wrong. Now if you're skilled with UVs and you want to play around with it, please go ahead and do so. And feel free to share the mesh. Any improvements on this is more than welcome. So this is why we're doing it as 2 separate meshes, just in case you want. I'm going to put it back so it looks nice. Right. So we now have our meshes. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a small change to our data asset for our ingredients. I'm just opening it up on my other monitor. Okay, so we go to our data assets, we have DA ingredients. It's basically a copy of the base one. Okay, open full editor. Okay, make sure you can So inherited variables. So this is what we have, okay? We need to add some more, and these are going to not all be used today, but they're going to be used as future, in future for other ingredients. The series goes along. So we're going to add quite a few variables, okay? But before we add a variable, we need to go back to our data folder, to our enums, and we need to make a new enum, okay? We've got a blueprint, blueprint enumeration. And we're going to call this E underscore ingredient name. Open that up. Okay. And in that, again, let me just bring up so I'm not telling you any lies. We're going to add a few. Now, this list will be added to as the game goes along. But for now, we're going to add 5. So getting 5 times. First one is going to be none. As I've explained before in other series, I like to have the first one as the default as none. It helps with sorting and other things. We're going to put butter. Jam, bread, and toast. Okay. Save that, close that. So butter, jam, bread, and toast. None, that's it. Close that. Okay, so back to our DA ingredients. You can go ahead and now add. So we're going to add the first one is going to be called cook time. And that's going to be a float. Next one is going to be called can burn, question mark. And that's going to be a boolean. Next one is for fx, and this is going to be a Niagara system. This one here, object reference. Again, some of these we will not be using today. Cooking sound, and this is going to be of type sound cue. We're also going to add cost, and that's going to be float. We're going to add amount in carton, and this is going to be an integer because we don't have half of things in a carton. Okay, this one which we will be using today, we're going to have cooked data asset, and that's going to be of type DA underscore ingredients, which is basically the one we're in. Okay, then we're going to add another one, and it's going to be called can have items added. And again, I'm not going to be using all of these today. That's a boolean. We're going to add another one saying can be spread. Again, that's a boolean. We're going to do another one. I'm going to call it array of meshes. These are of type static mesh. static mesh object reference. I'll just double check that. Yes. And make sure it's an array. So a little tip, you can hover over this, click your right mouse button, and it will change it to an array or back to single. Okay, so we want it as an array. Now we're going to add another one. Ingredient type. And again, if I misspell things, I apologize, but I'm not the world's best speller. We want it as a single variable, and we're going to want it as our e underscore ingredient name that we made earlier. And we've got two more, and then we're done for this. We've got amount in pack, and that's going to be a single integer. Amount in pack and amount in carton will come to make sense later on. Amount in pack means how much is in the container that you have in your hand, i.e. a jar of jam, so how many servings, for example. The amount in carton is how many. Later on we're going to have a purchasing system in the game, so you can buy a carton, and how many does it have? Does it have 6, 10, whatever in a carton? And the very last one is delete when empty. And that's going to be a boolean, and that's going to be used for when you're using up an ingredient. If it's in a disposal, if it's like open, say you've got butter, you can delete it once it's empty, so it's gone out of the world. But if it's a container, then it gives us another mechanic in the game where we can pick the container up and throw the old containers away, or refill them depending on what the container is. So that's all we need to make sure you save. Everything is saved, and it will give you some other things that save because we changed the data asset. Okay, we can go ahead and close that. Then we're going to go and we're going to open up our data asset folder. Data asset folder. Now we've got it as item data here. I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call this food. We're going to drag our bread into the food. Move it here, open that up. Okay. We're going to make a new data asset, but we can just copy this one from now. So we can duplicate this now, and we're going to call this DA. Okay. Now, first of all, we're going to open up our DA bread. And for now, we're going to leave everything pretty well the same, except for we get to our cooked data asset. We're going to choose a DA toast. Can have items added and can be spread because those are going to need to be changed next time. Make sure we've got uncooked white bread. Ingredient type is going to be bread. Yeah. Amount of pack I'm not going to bother with for now. We'll get to those when we get to it. Item type is an ingredient, and the rest we can leave the same. Okay. Go ahead and save that. And close. We're now going to go ahead and open up the newly made DA toast. And the only thing we're going to do in here is we're going to change, first of all, we're going to change our mesh to be toasted white bread. I don't know why I got one on it because I duplicated it, but neither here nor there. So whatever you've named yours, or toasted white bread, we're going to change that to. We're going to change some of our wording. I'm going to say slice of toast. And we're going to say a delicious slice of toast. All of these will come into play later on in the game. Okay, so double checking. That is all we need to do. The main thing is change that, change a little bit of your wording. Okay, the rest stays the same. Make sure you save it. Go ahead and close that. And we should have all saved. By the way, you can go ahead and delete the toast out of the world, and the bread can stay there for now. Okay, so that's that part done. And now we're going to go back to our data assets. We're going to make a new folder, and we're going to call this appliances. We're going to make a new child of our DA base. So create a child blueprint class, and we're going to call it DA appliances. Okay. And for now, we're not going to change this much. We just need it there to differentiate for a moment. We will be changing it later on with different appliances we're going to be adding to this. So this is pretty standard as it is. So in our DA appliances, we're going to right click. We're going to go to miscellaneous. We're going to, in our appliances folder, we're going to go to miscellaneous. We're going to go to data asset. And we're going to look for our DA appliances. And we're going to select that. We're going to call it DA underscore toaster. And open it up in mind. So we're going to open it up. So we're going to keep it pretty simple. It is an appliance. Put last time our static mesh. We're going to go back to our static meshes folder. Appliances, toaster, static meshes. We're going to choose the complete one that we made earlier. Do that. Give it a name. Toaster. Give it a description. A 2-slice toaster. Your description be whatever. Again, we don't have icons at the moment. Mesh scale we're going to leave. Interaction key is going to be E. And we're going to say pick up or LMB to start. Okay. That's all we're going to do in there. Nice and simple. Make sure we save it. Go ahead and close it. I've got too many windows open in my reference project. Go ahead and close a load of those. Okay, so now we start with the big boys. Okay. We're going to go back to our folder hierarchy. We're going to go back to our root folder of our game. Blueprints. Parent blueprints. You should have BP base, BPP ingredients. Okay. We're going to select BPP base, right click, we're going to create a tail blueprint class, and we're going to call this BPP appliances. Again, this is so that we can have core. So the BPP base has every core thing that they're all going to need, and then we can actually then customize it per. You could just do everything on BPP base and then write it, but every time you make an appliance, if it has the same code as another appliance, then you're going to have to keep rewriting the same code again. So this just avoids us doing that same with the ingredient. Okay. Let's make sure I haven't put anything extra in here. Right. Okay, I haven't made anything extra in here. But what I did do, and I want us to open up the BPP base. I want you to add, first of all, a scene component. I'm just going to call it pivot. And we're also going to add a static mesh. And we're going to call this grab point. And what this mesh will allow us to do is to grab an item at a different point to the root point. If, for example, in the toaster's case, it's quite big, so it's going to be above your eye level, it allows us to bring that level down. We do need to add a static mesh, so I'm just going to add a sphere. A bog standard sphere, which is absolutely, if we look in the viewport, it's absolutely huge. We don't want it huge. And I found, make sure you've got your little lock on, 0.1 is big enough for that. Compile that. Also, we want to make sure that this grab point is set as custom. Okay. Collision enabled, query in physics. Okay. But I want you to ignore all. Okay. We don't want this affecting us in any way, shape or form. And just to be on the safe side, I've noticed this with a couple of test runs I've been doing. Go to your item base mesh here. We've got it as custom, we've got it collision enabled, query in physics, which is fine. We've got it as world dynamics, everything like that should stay the same. Now, make sure that it ignores the problem. Okay. Now, on some meshes, and you'll see later on when we do this, we will have to change this because for some reason our character walks straight through the mesh. So we will change it to actually a bit slightly different. Okay. We can make sure we compile, save that. That's what we're doing in the base. Just double checking, bear with me a moment. Make sure I'm not telling you lies. That's fine. Okay, so actually there was one more thing we need to do in the base. My apologies. Open up the base again. On this grab point, look for hidden. And make sure you check hidden in game because you don't want to be seeing this mesh in the game. Okay, now we can go ahead and close that. We're going to open up our appliance parent. Double click that. We're going to go to our class settings. We can make sure we generate abstract class like we've done with the other ones. compile that. And double check on our message, setting is correct, everything should be correct. So that's what we need to do in there. We can go ahead and close that. Back to our content folder, our blueprints folder, our game items. We're going to make a new folder, appliances, and we're going to right click. We're going to make a new blueprint class. We're going to search for BPP underscore appliances. We're going to make that parent. We're going to call it BP underscore toaster. Okay. Save everything. We're going to open up our toaster. Now this is where the main work comes. At the moment you don't see anything. You can see our little ball, which is fine because that will be hidden in plain. So first thing we do is in our BP toaster, we go to our, make sure we've got our class defaults. We go to our data assets, choose our toaster, or you can search it here like that if you like. And immediately you'll see our toasters there. Got no handle, but it's as we made our static mesh. Okay, so we're going to add quite a few things here in the viewport. Just going to check on the time. Okay, we're not too bad. So we're going to have a few things in the viewport. They're all going to be added to the base mesh. Okay, so make sure you highlight the base mesh. First thing is going to be, we're going to add an audio component. If it's not in the list, just search for it and leave that as default name is fine. We're going to add a box collision. And again, you can leave that as default as box, it doesn't matter. But if it makes more sense, you can name it whatever you like. Okay. Then we're going to add a static mesh. Okay. And we're going to rename this static mesh to lever. Okay. Let's set that straight away. So we go to our meshes folder, go to our appliances, our toaster, static meshes. We choose this one. It's called low. I don't know what language that is, but one that looks like a lever. We choose that. And we set that static mesh. We're going to position everything in a moment. We're going to add all the components first, and we'll set them up. Now to the lever, so make sure you've got your lever highlighted. This is important. We're going to add a scene component, and we're going to call this slot 2. We're going to add another scene component. We're going to call this slot 1. Whichever way you do it, they always end up the wrong order, so don't worry about that too much. Okay, and then we're going to add, so select slot 1 or slot 2, whichever you want to do first. We're going to add another box collision. We're going to call this, so we'll check your slot number, so this one is slot, slot 2 box. Okay, then we're going to highlight slot 1. We're also going to add a box collision. And you guessed it, we're going to call this slot 1 box. And I believe that is all we need to add to our viewport. So make sure you compile and save so we don't lose what we've done. Let's start by setting them up. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to find box. Okay. Now this box is way too big, we only want it small. This is going to be the box that's going to detect when we drop the toast on the toaster. If you're using the same mesh as me, you can go ahead and follow the location, rotation, etc. that I'm using. If not, you're going to have to adjust it to suit your mesh. Okay, so for box, we're going to go down here for box extent. First of all, we're going to say 14.6. We're going to say 12 and 2.4. We're going to go up to the location, and in the Z, we're going to do 32.7. That should bring it right at the top of your toaster. Okay, and if you look at the top view, it pretty well covers the slots. Okay, you can adjust it left or right a little bit, but this works for me. Okay. You can make it a bit longer if you wanted to. Doesn't matter. But try not to make it too tall, because if you make it too tall, even if you hover stuff over it, it will trigger it, and it's not what you actually want it when it's dropped. You could make it even smaller if you wanted to. Okay, so that's that one done. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our lever. You see at the moment our lever is at the bottom. Okay, well, again, if you're using this one, we're going to use 16 for the Z. So that puts it at the top. And if I do a front view, you can see it puts it up to the top, or almost to the top. It's what worked for me. Okay, and if you're using a different mesh, you may have to change this. The important thing is to keep note of where the bottom is. So if we move this down, you can see the bottom is around about 4, and this is what I've used. So 4, 16. Okay, so as long as you keep note of that, or know how to check it, you'll be fine later on. Okay, so we've done our lever. Now we're going to go to our slot. So let's do slot 2 first. That must be in the list first for me. Now slot 2 has some odd positions. So negative 1.3, negative 5, 7. Okay. And we're going to do slot 1. And slot 1 is basically the almost opposite of those. So it's negative 1.3. Instead of negative 5, it's going to be 5. 7. Okay, again, if we look at it from the top perspective, you can see it basically puts those slots in the center of the slots of our toaster. So if you're using your own mesh, that's where you position them. Okay, I'm going to go for a white view for now, for the next part. We have our 2 boxes left. Let's do slot box 1. Now slot box 1 should be in the correct position. The only thing we need to do is change our location to 2. We'll move it up slightly. Our extent to 12, 1, and 2. Okay. It'll appear to disappear, but it will be in there. If you want to, you can change the color of it to something so that it differentiates it, just so that when you're setting up you can see it. So if we look at the top now, you can see here's our box here. If I click off it, you can see it's colored blue, and it sits inside our slot. Okay. And if we look for the right side, we select it, and we look at our slot, okay, it's actually, if we look at a wireframe, there's a little bit more detail there. Okay, so if we click the slot, is the bottom of our slot box. Okay, this position is central, so that's why we moved it up to. Okay, remember these are central points. They're not the full width. It's not 2 from here to here. It's 2 from the center to there. So 4. So by moving it up 2, we've actually moved it to where the slot box is. Okay. And now we're going to do slot box 1. It. And it's basically exactly the same. So we're 12, 1, and 2, and 2 up on the Z. Okay. So just to explain everything we've done so far, we have our lever, connected to the lever are our slot boxes. Make sure they're parented to the lever. If they're not, your bread will not go down. So basically, we will attach the bread to the slot. So when we move the lever down, it moves down with it. And when we pop it back up, it moves it back up with it. Okay. The collision boxes, slot box 1 and 2, are there to allow us, as you'll see in code later on, when we remove the bread, to know that we've removed something from the toaster and that slot is now empty. Okay. And as I explained earlier, this one here is to detect when we drop the bread on there, it will then move the bread into an empty slot. So whichever slot it gets first is empty, it will move it into. If there's no empty slots, it will just drop to the floor. You can't put 3 slices in a 2-slice toaster. Okay. And that's the basic mesh setup. Let me just check out time. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to call this one here, and straight after I finish recording this, I'm going to record the next part, which will be making the code and getting it to work. So thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, check out my Discord, Patreon, buy me a coffee, whichever you prefer. Send me a comment. Tell me if you prefer longer videos or shorter videos. I am interested in knowing. And whatever the majority is, I will go with. If you would like a full video of the complete series as one long video, I can do that, but that will be something maybe for patrons only. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.